Hello again. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja. And tonight I'm going to be talking about the new Netflix superhero action comedy, Thunder Force. In an alternate reality, a wave of cosmic rays hit the Earth, and unfortunately, people who would be naturally predisposed to becoming supervillains were the only ones that obtained superpowers. Now, herein lie our two main characters, Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer, who grew up in this era, and, well, while Octavia Spencer decided to try her best to change the world and maybe even help protect mankind from these superpowered anomalies, Melissa McCarthy went on to worship hair metal bands and drive a forklift. Hey, people's lives take many different directions, okay? So eventually she meets up with Octavia Spencer, tries to, convince her, hey, you know what, our 20th, I'm not entirely sure, like the high school reunion date, but our high school reunion's coming up. Would you like to come out? You're really big success. A lot of people will be excited to see you there. And because of a mishap, unfortunately, Octavia Spencer had to leave the room for like 5 minutes, which was really all that Melissa McCarthy's character needed to actually just accidentally inject herself with super soldier serum. That's essentially what it is. So she accidentally gives herself superpowers, and Octavia Spencer has to then train her to become the world's, or no, they pretty much like solidly say, the world's first superhero. Okay. So with this premise, someone walks into a laboratory, aka superpower factory. I mean, that's what they are, right? I mean, like, in comic books, how many hundreds of characters have just walked into a laboratory and just walked out with superpowers? Anyways, she walks in, she gets superpowers, and then they have to create a team that eventually is coined Thunder Force, to help save Chicago and, by extension, clearly the world. Alright. It's pretty run-of-the-mill as a kind of superhero story plot goes. The execution, however, is lacking. Stop me if you heard me say this before. You expect action movies to be exciting, and you expect comedies to make you laugh. Unfortunately, Thunder Force doesn't really deliver on either of these two bases. So, unfortunately, because of the pacing being so slow, both with the origin stories of the two main characters and how they obtain their superpowers and the process of the training their superpowers and like that gets the story bogged down a bit too much. To be fair, 90% of comic book movies or superhero movies do get quagmired in the origin story. Usually with the first film in any given franchise taking up sometimes the first 40 minutes of any given film. Talking about like how this person came to be the superpowers and then eventually designed a costume and eventually took to the streets. So, okay, that's pretty understandable as far as, being a little bit behind on the pacing there. But where the pacing really suffers is with Melissa McCarthy's brand of humor. A lot of it takes the form of extended, I don't know what the phrase is, joke monologues? Where she complains that people don't know pop culture references or certain actors, or has an extended complaint about physical fitness and training, or about... You can start to feel it. Was somehow Melissa McCarthy, when she really just starts talking, she just starts talking. And you kind of wonder to yourself, like, okay, when is this going to be over? For Saturday Night Live fans, you have that scenario where, the sketch starts and then it just feels like it doesn't know where to go and it doesn't know where to end, and so it just kind of keeps going. Like sometimes you have a 10-minute skit that could have been 5 minutes, maybe 3 if the material really doesn't allow for a solid punchline of some kind. And most of these moments, they come off as very self-indulgent. Now, that being said, I can't really call it self-indulgent because Melissa McCarthy didn't actually write this. Her husband did. That being said, okay, there's nothing wrong with a couple supporting each other in their creative endeavors. So I actually didn't not coming down on the director for being just like a little bit hesitant in the editing room. It's like, okay, like, Melissa finds this funny. I don't know. I guess I don't want to hurt her feelings. So, okay, it stays in. This film is a little bit over 2 hours, but it would be a lot tighter and in some places a lot funnier if they just made the joke, get to the punchline, move on. There we go. So, yeah, it feels a little bit indulgent, but not necessarily for the reason I thought initially. Now, like I said, it doesn't really work as either a superhero action film or really even as a comedy, unfortunately. But now, I'm going to talk about a few things that I actually did like about the film. One, there's this primary concept where the people that obtain superpowers, the miscreants as they're called in the film, now they're naturally inclined to be supervillains. The mythos at the very beginning of the film talks about if you were inclined to be what they say this. They use this specific word, a sociopath. Then more than likely, after the cosmic ray event, you were going to get superpowers. Now that's an interesting concept. It's an interesting idea. The idea that someone who is naturally inclined to be violent or harmful to society has super strength or can shoot lasers out of their eyes or any number of like harmful powers. That's interesting how like only one particular dynamic of person ends up with these superpowers, because that also gives the heroes a hill to climb. They could be part of a special commission by the United States government to find the weaknesses of various supervillains, or to try to generate and engineer technology that puts law enforcement or special agencies at the forefront of being able to combat supervillains. They kind of work with that. Octavia Spencer is a super scientist who develops a super strength serum and an invisibility serum, and for the most part, okay, that's an interesting follow through. However, once again, even when they begin their superhero career, if you want to call it that, it's less than exciting, folks. The very first crime that they stop is a five and dime robbery, and after they actually beat the bad guys, after a few awkward physical comedy takes, well, do they arrest them? Do they, detain them so they could be, taken to the police? No. Jason Bateman, who is his only gimmick, is that he has crab claws. Do the crab claws cut through any material like iron or steel or concrete? No. The joke is he has crab claws. That's it. And eventually, they just leave. Melissa McCarthy, with her super strength and invulnerability, she beats down, these robbers, and then they walk out the front door. Now, to be fair, they have a montage a few minutes later showing that they actually have gone out of their way to stop a lot of other criminals. But still, that kind of, it's like, you're the superhero, and yet, okay, yeah, you stopped one crime, but the whole idea of bringing criminals to justice, you kind of let that slip through your fingers. That's weird. Just outright strange. Anyways, I was talking about some positives here. The dynamic of the two main characters, Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer, is actually pretty good. You have Melissa McCarthy, who's way over the top, and we know that Octavia Spencer, especially from her beginnings, as a comedic actress, she can be over the top as well. But no, they had one be very stoic and sober and just to the point. and that's Octavia Spencer, and then they have Melissa McCarthy, who's very over the top. So the dynamic actually works fairly well for what it is. And something else that didn't really it didn't really put the message out there just front and center, but I hope that there are more films like Thunder Force. Now, wait a second, Movie Ninja. You just said that it's not exciting and it's not funny, so what are you talking about? What I'm saying is that the primary cast, Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer, actually do represent something that I would like to see a lot more in superhero films. Not every superhero needs to be like Chris Hemsworth or Gal Gadot. People that have extraordinary circumstances and, are given extraordinary abilities. I would like to see just more average people, and I don't, just take that as a compliment, People of any age, of any race, of any gender, anything, whatever. It's a very interesting idea that anybody can be a superhero, not just supermodels. Okay. So I would like this to be kind of it leaves the door ajar just a little bit to sort of like let in other films like this, that once again, like I said, you could be any race, ethnicity, any age, any physical shape, and hey, walk into a laboratory and you get superpowers. Okay? So, I think that would be interesting if we saw a lot more of that. A more, sort of like anybody that finds himself in this very unique situation and how they deal with that situation. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be interesting. But that being said, unfortunately, I can't really give this a very strong rating, just because I feel like most people who watch this will unfortunately be kind of let down by the pacing and just the extended, long, awkward joke monologues. So I'm going to give it about a 4 out of 10, in all honesty. Like I said, I don't think it's just on me. I think most people would find this film actually kind of lacking for what it's supposed to be. So, now, that being said, I'm always here trying to make the best possible recommendation as to what would make, what would add to an entertaining experience. And I'd say, and the thing is, if you like a film like this, there is a film that came out years and years ago that I think achieves what this film was trying at, and that is Mystery Men. So, thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja and watching my Thunder Force review. If you liked it, please give it a like. If you'd like to help the channel grow, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of the evening.